Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking what is essentially an ancient detective story, and it's one that is fundamentally about truth, deception, and the total unraveling of a massive national illusion. We're going to be looking really closely at the legendary story of Bel and the Dragon. We'll break down exactly how this narrative illustrates the ultimate clash between unquestioned tradition and honest, gritty investigation. Honestly, it's just an incredible look at how a carefully constructed deception was brought down by the absolute simplest of methods.
So, I want you to imagine this just for a second. What if everything your entire nation worshipped was a total lie? It's an incredible hook, right? It immediately lowers our defenses and builds this amazing suspense, really asking us to imagine what it would be like to stand completely alone against an entire empire. Because under King Cyrus, there was this absolute, unquestioning belief in a famous idol named Bel. And I mean, this wasn't just some fringe belief, it was a literal civilization-wide consensus everyone bought in. And the sheer scale of this accepted illusion, well, it sets the stage perfectly for a monumental clash between one lone individual and the full weight of an empire's culture.
Now, let's define exactly what was convincing this entire empire. It was known as Bel's miracle. Basically, it was the daily, completely unquestioned disappearance of just massive feasts of food and wine placed right in front of a carved stone idol. And look, let's be honest here. For a stone statue, Bel had an incredible metabolism. I mean, by morning, every single crumb had completely vanished. To the people living back then, this vanishing food was undeniable proof. The explanation seemed totally obvious to them. The idol had eaten the offerings, which meant, obviously, the idol was undeniably alive. It's a textbook example of how an impressive appearance can so easily pass for reality if nobody actually bothers to look a little closer.
But as you might expect, there was one major exception. Enter our lone skeptic, Daniel. See, while the rest of the empire totally bought into this vanishing food as absolute miraculous fact, Daniel completely refused to accept appearances at face value. And just think about how incredibly isolating that must have been. Daniel stood entirely alone against the empire's popular consensus. He didn't just go along to get along, you know? He recognized that just because literally everyone believes something to be true, well, that doesn't automatically make it reality.
And Daniel's skepticism wasn't just him being a contrarian for the fun of it. It was actually deeply rooted in his bold declaration to King Cyrus. He said, "I worship the Lord my God, for he is the living God." It's just pure, unbreakable logic. He basically points out to the king, hey, carved stone can neither eat nor speak. Daniel's faith wasn't based on superstition or fear. It rested on a living creator, and that gave him the absolute, unwavering confidence to question this stone idol, completely regardless of the immense social pressure to just conform.
And this brilliantly illustrates the stakes we're dealing with here. The priests of Bel, who are completely confident in their deception, propose a super high-stakes test. It's essentially an ancient life-or-death locked room mystery. Here's the deal. If the king seals the temple and the food disappears by morning, Daniel dies. But if the food remains untouched, the priests face judgment. Now, on paper, this challenge seemed completely impossible for Daniel to win. The priests entirely controlled the environment, and man, they were incredibly confident.
But Daniel had a brilliantly simple, covert plan up his sleeve. Step 1. The food is placed before Bel, business as usual. Step 2. And listen, this is where the absolute genius lies. Daniel quietly scatters ashes across the entire temple floor. Just a thin layer. No one notices a single thing. He quietly sets his trap literally right under their noses. And then step 3, the heavy temple doors are shut and officially sealed by the king himself.
So, the night passes. The suspense is building. The next morning finally arrives, and the king eagerly opens up the temple doors to see the results of this ultimate test. He looks inside and, just as before, the food has completely vanished. At first glance, everything looks exactly as the priest promised. It appears, once again, that Bel really is a living god. So you have to wonder, had Bel actually performed a true miracle? Or was this entire, elaborate illusion about to completely shatter?
Well, the answer comes down to one single, undeniable piece of evidence: footprints. Yeah, Daniel simply asked the king to stop, look down at the ash-covered floor, and just see what those ashes revealed. The climax of this whole story doesn't involve some crazy lightning bolt from the sky. It literally just involves looking closely at the ground.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how methodically the evidence unraveled the whole fraud. The ashes revealed tracks leading all across the floor. And not just any tracks. We're talking footprints of men, women, and children. This covert investigation completely uncovered a secret passage hidden right beneath the temple. So, during the night, the priests and their families had secretly snuck in, consumed all the food themselves, and then escaped back through the hidden passage right before sunrise. The whole elaborate illusion? Entirely man-made.
The conclusion was absolutely undeniable. The miracle had never actually existed. Decades, maybe even centuries of tradition and unquestioned belief were shattered in a single instant. And why? Simply because someone actually bothered to look past the surface and test the claims that were being made. Wisdom and careful observation completely exposed what appearances had so carefully hidden away.
And this actually brings us to the philosophical core of our whole explainer today. On one side, you have the false god Bel, representing deception, right? It requires hidden doors, it thrives in secrecy, and it absolutely fears any honest examination. But on the other side is the concept of the living God. This concept requires no hidden doors. It relies purely on truth, and it actively withstands and even invites thorough investigation. Deception always operates in the dark, while genuine truth actively invites the spotlight.
Honestly, this is one of the absolute greatest lessons we can pull from this story. Genuine truth withstands investigation. Real faith doesn't actually ask people to ignore evidence or silence their questions or just turn a blind eye to reality. Actually, scratch that. It's more like genuine faith grows so much stronger when it's tested, precisely because it rests on solid reality and not on some fragile illusion. If something is truly real, honest investigation is never ever a threat to it.
I absolutely love this quote from the source material. A handful of ashes became more powerful than years of carefully maintained deception. Isn't that great? It beautifully highlights how God's wisdom so often comes through careful observation and sharp discernment, rather than these spectacular, flashy, mind-mending signs. Daniel didn't need extraordinary physical strength, and he didn't need a dramatic counter-miracle. He literally just needed a handful of ashes and a sharp mind to expose a lie that entire generations had somehow failed to recognize.
But hey, this isn't just some ancient history lesson. Fast forward to today. Deception rarely just announces itself as a lie, does it? Instead, it hides behind popularity. It completely entrenches itself in long-standing tradition. It masks itself in really impressive appearances, and it uses highly persuasive voices. The scary thing is, deception often hides right smack in the middle of what the crowds are so loudly celebrating.
So the absolutely crucial point we really have to remember is this: popularity does not determine truth, period. Just because millions of people on the internet believe something, well, that doesn't magically make it reality. History is absolutely packed with examples of entire societies confidently embracing ideas that later proved to be, well, completely wrong. Public opinion is honestly a terrible metric for objective reality.
So, where does that leave us? How do we navigate a modern culture that's so heavily driven by social media trends and fashionable crowds? Well, we have to actively seek God's wisdom, carefully compare popular ideas against foundational truths in His Word, and relentlessly pursue the truth with a real mix of humility, honesty, and incredible courage. It's a super powerful toolkit for active critical thinking in a world that so often just demands our passive agreement.
Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought to close out our explainer today. Will you choose comfortable traditions and popular opinions, or will you have the courage to investigate and stand for the truth, even if you have to stand entirely alone? This story challenges every single one of us to deeply reflect on our own beliefs. Are we just accepting the disappearing food because everyone else does, or are we actually willing to scatter the ashes, look for the footprints, and seek genuine truth? Thanks so much for joining me as we explore this amazing narrative. Keep asking those hard questions, and I'll see you next time.